It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Let's roll. It is the final day of November. How about that? The final day of November. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is here as well. Good afternoon.
Good
to
afternoon.
see you as always.
Is it okay if people put up Christmas decorations now, Jeff?
Tomorrow's perfect.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow's perfect. December 1st, have at it. Have at it. Still
One more
November
day.
today. Tomorrow, absolutely perfect. But to say, hey, look, it's already up at South Point, but at least my wife put the tree up, but there's no ornaments on the tree.
Okay.
I allowed the tree last week. No problem. But no ornaments until the 1st. And then 25 days of Christmas. Let's go. Starting that tomorrow. We're going to be starting it with Thunder tomorrow with the Pac-12 title game. See, look at our great crew. It's the two-man booth back there right now. Sean and Ryan. Ann's off in some meeting. Who knows where Jerry is? Jerry might already be off to Disney World already, in all honesty. But it is a big shout out to the two guys back there, Ryan and Sean. But this is starting with Thunder for December, the Pac-12 title game here in town, the Allegiant Stadium double with the Mountain West title, UNLV hosting Boise State on Saturday. Great week of college football with all those championship games, NFL as well. And the NFL kicks off tonight with a game that even touched 10 not too long ago. But those 10s, what does our guy Vinny say? Blink and you miss?
Yep.
You missed if you're looking for a 10. Those are gone. It's now 9.5 across the board, including behind us. Never hit 10 behind us. But other books across the country and even the city here in Vegas got the 10 on this one. Seattle on the road at Dallas. The Seahawks, by the way, made some history today for a game that's not going to be played for a few weeks. The Eagles and the Seahawks in Week 15, your first ever Monday Night Flex game. Moves from Sunday to Monday. And as I said to our guy, Frank Nicotero, earlier in the show, just shows how bad the Patriots are, that they didn't even keep a Patrick Mahomes game on that Monday night in Week 15. Just shows how bad New England has turned. But we'll get to that game in 2 weeks. But, Alex, now at 9.5, open 8 to 9.5, total bouncing around 46 at the bottom, 48 at the top, 47.5 now. We'll go through this through the whole hour. But what have you looked at? What have you played, if anything, on this one tonight?
Well, Jeff, I cannot bet against the Cowboys at home right now at this time. So I did lay the 8.5 with Dallas. I also teased them down, put them in with the Eagles, actually, teased them up. So we know how the home field advantage is at Dallas right now, averaging 41 points at home compared to 23.7 on the road. They're playing phenomenal. Dak is playing his best football right now, completing 70% of his passes, 7.9 yards per pass attempt, 23 passing touchdowns. That's the second most in the NFL. So I couldn't bet against them here. It's actually probably my strongest favorite play this weekend. It does make me a little nervous. Seattle's backs are against the wall. They need this win. They have fallen 3 of their last 4. They are over 500, 6-5 right now, but they just have not looked good. Especially offensively, they are depending on Geno way too much. They have no run game, and then they come into this game without Kenneth Walker, their number 1 running back. We'll see a lot of Zach Charbonnet in this one, but I do like Dallas in this spot. I think they keep it rolling. Makes me a little nervous. It is a lot of points in the NFL, but I wouldn't chase the number. 8.5, I feel pretty comfortable, but would not be laying over 9.
Yeah, I wouldn't lay to 9.5. Total, I think, is right. We talked about this with the Seahawks the last few weeks. That loss to the Rams may have set them on a course that a lot of Seahawk backers, especially the ones that have some make the playoff tickets or even some win total overs, this may have set them on a course for something that may be a disaster for what you had. And this was a team that was, they were 6-3 after that win against the Washington Commanders a few weeks ago. Lose to the Rams, get blasted on Thanksgiving by the Niners. Now you have this game where you're almost a 10-point underdog in. You're going to be probably a double-digit – no, not probably. You are going to be a double-digit underdog next week against the Niners in Santa Clara. Then they get the Eagles. They're going to be a home dog in that game. You'll be looking at 6-8 going into the final 3 weeks of the season with, 3 winnable games in Nashville against the Titans, home game against Pittsburgh, at Arizona end of your season. But all of a sudden, you went from, wow, this team – might have a shot to steal the division if they can split with the Niners to, are they even going to be in the playoffs, even in this mediocre NFC? That's a big doubt, unless if they can pull an upset along these next 3 games, Alex.
And I'm one of those people. I took the Seahawks to make the playoffs. I'm really not counting on that bet cashing. And I'll go even further than what you said against the Rams. I think that pivotal game where they just got destroyed by the Ravens, everything kind of changed from there. They had 1 win since then, and that was against the Commanders. And now we're starting to see it's not such a great win after all, right? They lose to 2 division opponents since then. So they have really, really struggled. Have to try and get an upset here in the next few weeks.
Just looking at the NFC standing, see, Ryan read my mind as I was going to it. Look at that. There you go. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles 10-1. Don't worry, we'll get to that game later. It's still Niners are favored on the road. Eagles are the first team this late in the season at 10-1 and better to be an underdog at home in any game in the NFL in the last 20 years. Lions, despite their struggles the last few weeks, still at 8-3. Look at that NFC South. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. 5-6 here at first place. A tie with the Falcons and the Saints. Atlanta, on the virtue of their win last week, in first place. Atlanta plays the Jets this week with a game that actually the total has been bet up to 34 off of 33. New Orleans take on those Lions, which actually we're going to get to that game a little later today because I want your opinion on that because for whatever reason, I'm kind of strong on one side in that game, and it's not the side you probably think.
Okay.
So we'll get to that a little bit later. Prop-wise, do you have any props tonight? There was really nothing that caught my eye in the prop market tonight.
So I was looking at Tony Pollard anytime touchdown, and that is because I am a little concerned with Seattle's pass defense. 5 of their last 6 games, the quarterback only threw 1 touchdown or 0. That was Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, some really good quarterbacks in that mix. But the Niners, they had 3 rushing touchdowns and just 1 passing by Purdy. So Seattle's allowed 14 rushing touchdowns, 5th most in the NFL. If I was looking at a prop, it would be at a running back on Dallas's team.
Oh, no touchdown score, 170-1. That's not good enough. I need more. I need 400-1 tonight.
Yes,
that's
definitely.
what I need in order to do that at a bare minimum on that one. We'll get back to this game as it goes. We may see Vinny or Chris in here today. A lot of big meeting day here at the studio. So we may see them. If we don't, we'll get their opinions tomorrow on a Football Friday. Back in its normally scheduled time after the holiday, this upcoming Friday tomorrow at 2:00 here at the South Point studio. All right. Let's go to college football real quick. Let's do this. Not real quick. Let's take our time on this. Ryan, do we have it? Sure is good enough. Yes. See, Ryan's got it. Ryan's all over it. Our guy, Chris Andrews, was asked by the Bear, Chris Felica, who we saw on this show a few weeks ago, some hypothetical playoff lines. There they are on your screen from the Bear, from our Chris Andrews. So let's go through this. These are all potential playoff matchups. Georgia, right now, favored by Alabama against Alabama this week, would be 15 against Florida State. This is the theme of this. Michigan would be 12 against Florida State. Texas would be a touchdown against Florida State. Georgia would be 8 against Texas, but only 1 against Oregon, which I think is the one that caught a lot of Twitter's eye on that one. Georgia would be 10 against Washington. Makes sense. Oregon's 9.5 on a neutral this week against the Huskies. Michigan would be a touchdown against Washington, 5 against Texas. And I think I got all of them there. So just looking at this. Georgia, Florida State, very logical 1-4, potentially. Same with Georgia, Texas. And Michigan, Oregon, a very possible Rose Bowl here, with Oregon favored by 2 in Chris's hypothetical line. I'll go first here, and then I'm curious what you have here. I would lay all numbers against Florida State with the quarterback situation they have. If we get Florida State in this playoff, and look, they go 13-0, they're going. I don't care what anyone says, they're going. The committee's not leaving an undefeated Power 5 team out. And I was reminded of this today when Ohio State won this first championship. Remember, it was their 3rd quarterback. It was Cardale Jones. They beat Alabama as a double-digit dog. They flipped around and pummeled Oregon with Marcus Mariota in Arlington that year for their first ever college football playoff championship. Now, I'm not saying that any of the guys on Florida State are at the level of Cardale Jones was in that postseason. Of course, Ezekiel Elliott was an amazing talent and carried the load for that Ohio State team. But it would be hard for me to pass any of those numbers that Chris laid out there. If we somehow get a Texas-Florida State, very happily lay a touchdown with the Horns. 12 with Michigan, wouldn't even think twice. 15 with Georgia, I got to think once we get north of the 2 touchdowns, but wouldn't be as bad as what they did to TCU last year. But I have a hard time seeing Georgia winning that game by less than 3 scores if they played Florida State. Very realistic Sugar Bowl possibility at a 1-4.
So I'm glad I have one more weekend to watch Florida State and adjust and see how they do against Louisville. Because I guess I don't have them quite as low as the odds makers. I have Georgia about a 12.5-point favorite over Florida State. So, yeah, I have to see what happens this weekend, see if Florida State moves down even more and how those two would match up, in my opinion. And then I have Texas a little higher than Chris because I have Georgia as a 4-point favorite in that one.
Okay.
So, yeah, I get to see. It's fun seeing these numbers and having Chris put them out early, kind of see where I am. I think his top 3 teams must have a pretty big gap, right, to the next teams. But I completely agree with the Oregon one because I do have them right up there with Michigan and Georgia. And then I looked at my dad's power ratings too, Kenny White, and kind of wanted to see where he was. He's very close to Chris's as well, but he does have Michigan as the number 1 team. Okay. So he actually has Michigan as a 16-point favorite to FSU, where Chris made it 12. So I'm interested to see what all the Twitter people would be saying about that.
I'd be very interested to see. Of course, those are the odds here at the South Point to win the college football playoff. Michigan and Georgia, your co-favorites right now at plus 180. The Ducks of Oregon, 5-1. Alabama, 9-1. Texas, 10-1. Washington, 15-1. Kind of feels like we're forgetting about the Huskies. Because if they win, they're going. They're in. If they win on Friday night as a 9.5-point underdog against the Ducks, they're in. No doubt about that. Florida State, 30-1. And then the Buckeyes just sitting there off this week. If we get carnage across the board, a Michigan win. Doesn't matter who wins the Pac-12. Georgia handles their business, and Texas and Florida State lose. Buckeyes could back their way in as the number 4 seed pretty easily. And what I just said, not impossible. I would be shocked if Texas blew that game to that mediocre Oklahoma State team. But, hey, if anyone's going to blow a game where they're 15-point favorites in, it would be the Horns. So it'll be fascinating to see how that ends up going across the board with everything right now. Again, Georgia, a 15-point favorite, according to Chris, against Florida State if we get it. Michigan 12 against Florida State. Georgia 8. Michigan 5 against Texas. Both of those were Texas lines. Again, I do go into this one real quick because this is the one that caught everyone's eyes. The one's with Oregon.
Yes.
Where Chris has Oregon a 1-point dog against Georgia and a 2-point favorite on a neutral against Michigan. I would stay out of the Georgia-Oregon game because I would anticipate that would be a national title game regardless of how it goes. If the committee put Georgia-Oregon as a 1-4, that's pretty brutal to do to Georgia right out of the gate. I think the proper thing would be, unless a Florida State just runs Louisville out of the building in Charlotte, assuming Oregon handles their business and covers against Washington, you just flip Oregon and Washington, make Oregon number 3, keep Florida State in at 4. You give Georgia the 1 against Florida State, and then Oregon plays Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Pretty nice send-off for the Rose Bowl with a Pac-12 Big Ten matchup in the final year of the Pac-12. But those are the ones that I caught mostly Twitter's eye. For what it's worth, I think Georgia probably should be maybe a point more against Oregon. It should be short of a field goal. And I think Michigan-Oregon is a pick. I think that's the pick of the picks at that point. I think those teams are dead even. Contrast of styles, both with really good defenses. I think that's the ultimate game that would be, at least in my mind, I would make it a pick. And I would say, you know what? Have at it, whatever way you want to bet it. That would be the way I would handle that game personally.
Completely agree. You nailed everything right there, even with the alignment with 1 through 4. I think people don't realize that Chris didn't just use these numbers coming off of last week's results, right? Like, he has been adjusting his numbers, making the lines throughout the whole season. So Oregon has slowly been moving up while Georgia, who has barely survived, well, not barely survived, but, looked weak at some point and kind of moved up and down here. So Oregon has been at the top for the last 4 or 5 weeks here. So seeing them as a 1-point or 2-point dog or even a pick in these games is not surprising to me.
Again, the Ducks have been through the last 6 weeks since that loss to Washington. They've been the best team in college football. I don't think there's much of an argument with that. You could argue Georgia. I'd listen, but I think the Ducks have been better over the last 6 weeks. Personally, that's a national championship game I would like to see, an Oregon-Georgia title. Now, granted, if we got Georgia-Michigan, no problem with that either. It'd be a lot of fun. See what happens this week. And again, how these lines will alter. And of course, these are not set in stone. Every team in that mix plays this week. You never know. We don't want to talk it into existence, but we saw Jordan Travis get hurt. Someone could get hurt, and this changes in a big way. We could see, again, Washington could beat Oregon, and who knows? Maybe you never know. Right? Washington already beat them once.
Yeah.
Maybe Washington has just not played well, and you know what? They get up for Oregon, and they beat Oregon by 10 points.
It's
be a shocker,
possible.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility with how those teams played in Seattle and how Washington, at least the first half of the year, was every bit as good as anyone.
Absolutely. I do want to get your opinion on one thing. You brought up Ohio State. So they sit at number 6 right now with Texas and Alabama behind them. Are you okay with that, or did you think those two would jump Ohio State after their loss?
I think it's irrelevant, personally, because if Alabama and Texas both win, they're hopping Ohio State. Ohio State's done. Ohio State's done unless if the scenario I said before happens. Georgia beats Alabama. Alabama's done with 2 losses. Oklahoma State stuns Texas. They're done. Texas is out. And then Florida State still has to lose to Louisville on top of all that. So the Buckeyes' path to make the playoff, even though they are rated ahead of Texas and Alabama, both those teams, Texas beats Oklahoma State, they're going ahead of Ohio State. And Alabama beats Georgia. Look, I don't think if Florida State wins, I don't think Bama should get in over Texas for one, assuming Texas wins. And if Florida State goes 13-0 versus 12-1 Bama, it's an interesting debate. I think the committee would take Florida State. If we went off talent, I'd have no problem with Bama going over Florida State. But I just don't see the committee leaving a 13-0 out. And there's no argument that makes any sense for Texas not going ahead of Bama, because we have to take the head-to-head into consideration. Texas went to T-Town and beat them handily as a 7-point underdog that day. So, again, a lot can happen this week. We'll break down the games actually in the next segment. We'll get your thoughts because you're with Frank tomorrow on Punchline. So this is the last time we'll see you until Saturday morning to get those games. But we'll have the Pac-12 title game and the New Mexico State Liberty CUSA title game as well. We'll discuss those next. We get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio here on the final day of November.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu. Plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
That's the South Point Sportsbook. You also see the back of our heads, the blue lights of the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Of course, before we continue, shout out Dom's Pizzeria, Trafford, PA, Steiner's across the valley here in Las Vegas, and Oasis as well. Shout out to all of them showing our program today and every day here from the South Point studio to wherever you may be watching us as well. Any comments today so far, Ryan? Or are we not feeling it from the peanut gallery so far? Not yet. Don't worry. I'm not worried about that at all. Not worried about that. I'll say something ridiculous enough in the next 40 minutes to get someone going over there. All right, Alex, let's go to tomorrow's games in college football since we won't see you again on this show until Saturday. We will see you tomorrow on Punchlines from noon to 1 with Frank Nicotero. Washington, Oregon's up to 10 now. Up to 10, just moved, 66. So now, the age-old question here, we're up to a key number. We're up to the full 10. Is now the point you hop in on the Huskies getting the whole 10?
I think yes. But
Okay.
you have to remember, and everybody who is watching, I'm kind of in a unique situation here because I have a ticket on Oregon. So when I'm telling you this, and I did jump in on Washington plus the 10 as well. It's a little bit of a hedge. Also, I think I'm in a great spot where I can win both. I do think Washington can hang in this game. All that talk, we were talking about Oregon being the best team in the country, but these two really don't like each other, and these two play each other very well. If you rewatch that first game, they match up really well, Jeff, especially in the trenches. Both O-lines did fantastic job protecting their guys, giving them plenty of time. Both quarterbacks were only sacked one time. Both teams have their star running backs, right, and their wide receivers who they like to go to. So I think it's going to be a great game. Again, I say this, as I have both sides, but I don't think Oregon is really going to just run away with it. I think Washington can hang in there, and I think 10 is a lot of points.
So we're at the point here where I'm curious to see how this goes the day of game as well. Event here, plenty of action. I know across the street at those MGM books at Mandalay Bay and Luxor, where everyone will be walking across the Hacienda Street Bridge right over to Allegiant Stadium, making sure they get their bets down beforehand. Trust me, I've been there, done it plenty of times and going to events over there. There at T-Mobile. But regardless, Alex, this is the point, though, for me, where one of two things happens here in this game. Either this is an epic like we saw the last time in Seattle, or Oregon blasts them. There's no Washington wins this game by multiple scores box in this game. And if it does, guess what? The Huskies will have earned that college football playoff berth. They'll probably stay at 3. There's no difference between 2 and 3, so they'll just stay at 3. And there you go. They're in the college football playoff. Congratulations to everyone up in Seattle. I would lean towards this, though, being a close game. Or the other counter to this is talking about 10 points in a college game, and a college game with 2 good teams in it. Back door is pretty open.
Yes.
Once you get north of that touchdown, now that you're getting to the whole 10, that back door is pretty open. So I'm going to stay out for now. But if you have been waiting all week for the 10, I would do it now. I think more likely than not, this probably comes back to 9.5 by the time this game kicks, just because I think at some point the public has to overwhelm, and they're going to say, whoa, I'm getting 10 with Washington, the team that's rated higher in the rankings, even though we all know, even though we know that has nothing to do with the line. Boy, I'm going to take those points. Heck, I might even sprinkle on the money line. I wouldn't do that, but I know there'll be plenty of people that will do that going into tomorrow. I think this closes 9.5, Alex. So if you like that 10, do it now before it disappears.
Are you going to the game tomorrow?
I will be there. I will be there. So the show ends at 4. Going right over, park the car at Mandalay, walk across, be ready to roll.
Good. So you'll represent Sports by the Book tomorrow night, and
you
I'll
got
represent
it on Saturday. Well, Ryan will be there too on Saturday. And the Las Vegas locals, the UNLV grad to my right. Not the UNLV grad in the back, but plenty of UNLV connections for our guy, Ryan McCormick, who is a Southern Utah Thunderbird. There you go. See, I got it right. I pay attention every once in a while. But regardless, I'll say this. For the Pac-12, it's the final Pac-12 game in its current form for football. You could not have gotten a better matchup. You mentioned it, two teams that hate each other, two teams that will play in the Big Ten moving forward. And right now, Oregon-Washington, I know Michigan-Ohio State was an awesome game. The Oregon-Washington game was a better game than the game last week. So put together a game like that, an epic, good way for the Pac-12 to go out at Allegiant Stadium. Let's go.
So no bets as of right now in
Not
that
at the
game?
moment.
Okay.
Talk to me tomorrow at 4:35 p.m.
Okay.
25 minutes before the game. Walking through with whatever. Hope you know what? I might just not bring cash to the game. Just make sure I don't do anything in a kiosk beforehand. All right. New Mexico State and Liberty. CUSA title game. Again, unbelievable job by Jerry Kill. Program was dreadful when he got there. Made a bowl last year. Now in the CUSA championship game. On the road against undefeated Liberty Flames. Backdoor shot if Tulane goes down against SMU to get into a New Year's Six bowl. Not impossible. I think SMU would probably get in if they won on the road in New Orleans, especially with the backup quarterback. But Liberty with an opportunity potentially to get into a New Year's Six bowl and a bid in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl more likely than not. Alex, it's 11.5 at the peak. Behind us is 10.5. It's really 11.5 or 10.5. There's no straight 11s out there, which is interesting. I would take as many points as possible with New Mexico State. I like Pavia. I think he's a warrior for sure. Fun quarterback, pretty darn good as well. It is a difficult road trip going from Las Cruces to Lynchburg, just as part of a conference flight you can get in the country until next year's Big Ten when the California teams are playing Rutgers next year. But I 11.5's out there, and one prominent book here in town, one prominent national book as well that has a crown. I would go with I would take the 11.5 with the Aggies in this one against the Flames.
I'm with you. I took the 11.5 as well, and I love this bet because these two have already played each other in that first outcome. Liberty won 33-17, but there was a lot of things that just went wrong for the Aggies. They had 3 brutal turnovers. So they went up 7-0 to start the game. They get the ball back, and then they have a fumble where Liberty marches back down, scores, and then it just changed the whole momentum of the game. Liberty, ultimately won that one because the Aggies had 2 more turnovers throughout that game. But I think it's a great matchup. I think they can come in here, take care of the football, hang in there, and actually have a chance to win this one. You mentioned it about New Mexico's quarterback. 2 really good quarterbacks on both sides. Both dual threat quarterbacks. Both have played very well this year. So this should be another good game in the Conference USA. And I like the underdog here.
Moving along here, Alex. Let's go to Saturday real quick. Just an overview here because we'll get all your thoughts on Saturday morning. The only thing that I like right now, but I'm going to wait to see if I get a 3. SMU's with the backup quarterback. Preston Stone got hurt at the beginning of that game against Navy. Carted it off, done. Broken fibula, done for the year. Tulane is only 3.5 at home against SMU. And I know there's some injury concerns on the Tulane side as well. That's why his numbers went down from as high as 6 down to 3.5. If this gets to 3, I'm laying it. I'm laying it with the Green Wave. They're a better football team. SMU has really pounded on bad teams this year. When SMU has played the 2 good teams on there, and I put good for one of them because TCU really wasn't any good this year. They're 5-7. SMU was handled by TCU this year. 34-17. Handled in that game against the team that ended up 5-7. Oklahoma, who we thought at the beginning of the year had a much better defense than in the past few years, but ended up being pretty similar when it was all said and done, held SMU to 11 points. So I'm not saying Tulane is Oklahoma, but Tulane's better than TCU. And Tulane is much better than every other team that SMU played this year. They're not going to be able to pony up on them, no pun intended with that one. I like Tulane, especially when we get down to 3. That's an auto lay for me on Tulane. I wouldn't do it because humongous difference between 3.5 and 3, but I almost get there at 3.5. Almost.
So I took the points with SMU early in the week. I took 5. So this move is all money, right? Because we already knew that Stone was out. So my biggest thing here, Jeff, is the Mustangs. They have a really good secondary. They're 6th in the nation in allowed yards per pass attempt. I think that they can slow Tulane down, especially who relies on their quarterback and the passing game. I think we'll have a good matchup here. SMU 8-0 in conference play, and I know you just said against really good teams, not so good, bad teams, they've done very well. But I think we'll have a good game. I took the 5, so we do have a chance to both win here in this one.
By the way, real quick here, just bringing this up, Michigan, people keep betting Iowa. It's down to low, it's 21.5 in the market. Total's been bet up to 35. Nice. Bet up the 35 at spots, 35.5 behind us. I said it earlier with Frank. This feels like Michigan runs them out. And the only other game that Iowa played similarly to this was against Penn State, 31-0.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan will be able to move the ball on Iowa's defense. At 22, I don't think is enough. I know it's crazy to say in a conference championship game, but I really don't think 22 is enough with the Wolverines. And I also don't mind this thing over if you can get a better number. You get 34.5. I think I go over that.
I'm shocked that it's moved that far down. Now it's almost a lay at 21.5 here with Michigan. Did you see Iowa's team total in the first half?
Yeah, there was first and second half. They're half, half with the juice on the under in the first half as well. Never seen that. Never seen that pre-flop. I've seen it in game plenty, but not pre-flop. No way, Alex.
So people are really just banking on Iowa to get a defensive touchdown here and have them hang around in this game. But I have not done anything with this one. This is one that I passed on.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, let's go to tonight's action. NBA, big card. NHL, big card. Some college hoops as well. Also, Chris Andrews will join us a little bit later in the program here today. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio, the site.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book. Here at the South Point Studio, I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you as always. Alex White alongside. Going to tonight's action across college hoops, college or NBA, NHL. We'll start with hockey first. Big card as always. What is this? This is 15 games tonight. Big card in the NHL. Alex, I'll let you steer the ship here. Where are we starting in the NHL?
All right, I'll go in rotation number order. So first play I really like on the board, 51-52, San Jose Sharks at Boston. I like this under 6. It is now minus 130 here at South Point. But the Sharks, they've scored 36 goals in 22 games. That's an average of 1.6 goals per game. In their 9 road games, they managed just 6 goals. So that explains why they are 7-1 to the under on the road this year. But the Bruins, we know they can score. They have 71 goals in 21 games, averaging 3.3 a game. But I think San Jose can keep them to 3 or 4 goals because since they gave up 10 in back-to-back games, the Sharks have held opponents to an average of 3 goals a game. I think this number would be just fine at 5.5, so I'll be happy going under 6 here.
You buried the lead on that. Boston's a $5 favorite right now. That one against the Sharks. That is the biggest number I've seen so far this year in an NHL game. There was as large as minus 550 at Caesars. Whoa.
The puck line's also minus 2.5 rather than a normal 1.5 you see.
Yes, it is. Yes, one book has minus 2.5. Behind us is you're laying the puck in a half with the Bruins at $1.90. Steep.
Yeah.
Steep. Would you get there? I know you just set up the argument against the Sharks scoring it all tonight, but would you dare? Would you dare take over $4 with San Jose tonight or no? Can't do it.
Let's see who's in net. We got
plus
Blackwood.
plus 410 is the best price out there on the. Or actually, excuse me. Plus 425 is the best number you can get on the Sharks right now.
Boston does have their number 2 goalie Swayman in, so no Olmark. That could help a little bit, but Mackenzie Blackwood is 3-11-1 on the year for the Sharks, so I think I'm going to stay away from that one.
3-11-1. That's almost half the Sharks' wins, though, isn't it? The Sharks are over half. See, they're 5-15. Ryan all over 5-15-2 for San Jose. That's a winner right there, Alex. No, I'm joking. What was that? Yes, that is true. They are a much better team at home. From bad to wow, this team is barely a hockey team on the road so far this year. All right, Alex, where are we going next?
Okay, so there's 2 games where I actually like over 1.5 in the first period,
Okay.
and this is actually normally an under team for me, and that's the New York Islanders at Carolina. But when you hear these stats, the Islanders games have gone over 1.5 in the first period, 14 of 21. That is 67%. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games. First period goals, they have 21 in 21 games. I'm not saying they happen perfectly, 1 in each game, but the Canes have 20 in their 21 games. So I like over 1.5, or if you are really feeling brave out there, you can go both teams to score for some plus money because the over 1.5 is minus 120.
Where else are we looking at?
There's another one, Edmonton and Winnipeg. I like this one over 6.5 with these 2 teams. Last time they played each other, Winnipeg won 3-2, despite being outshot 40-27. So I think we're going to have a really good game from the Oilers here. I know they're coming off an emotional, physical game against the Knights where they did win in the shootout, but it's a good team. They can bounce back. Not bounce back, they beat the Knights, but, keep it going here. Expect a lot of goals in this one. I also like that over 1.5 in the first period. Is actually minus 160, though.
Going to the association real quick. I don't have anything tonight. I don't think you do either. Just loaded card across the board. I just want to bring this up. The Knicks are the biggest favorite on the board at 14.5 right now. The Detroit Lions have more wins this calendar year than the Detroit Pistons do, which is not good if you're the Pistons. Pistons have lost 15 in a row. They started the year 2-1 or 2-16. Ryan and I were talking about this before the show. Is there a moment here when you get a team that bad that's on this ridiculous of a losing streak? At some point, they're going to have to cover a game, which they haven't done in a little bit as well, and B, I'm not saying take them outright tonight at the Garden. They're not going to win tonight against the Knicks. But don't we have to start at some point taking these big, giant numbers because it is, again, an NBA game and a team, they're all professionals, getting 14.5. That's a gigantic number for an NBA game, especially this early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the San Jose Sharks, right? We said the same exact thing. They were on a record losing streak and giving up the most goals, but then they found their spot and got a win. So, yeah, I wouldn't, not tonight though, against the Knicks. They have a really good defense. I want to ask you about another game on the board though.
Yeah,
the Atlanta Hawks and the Spurs. That total is about 20 points higher than most of the totals on the board.
So 248 right now. Opened at 246.5 behind us. Only been bet over. Hawks, by the way, 7.5 on the road against San Antonio. I mean, look, the Hawks, what was that, 10 days ago now, played the highest scoring regular season regulation game in NBA history against the Pacers. They don't play defense. The Spurs don't play defense. I have no problem with that total being that high at 248. Let's just put it this way. I wouldn't want to bet it under.
Right.
Despite it being that high at 248. I'll stay out of that tonight. They're really, the Clippers and the Warriors, probably the best game of the day. I'm still a little aggravated at Golden State. Took them in game when they're up a bunch against Sacramento and still didn't get there, even just laying 2 in game in that one. But regardless, kind of my own reminding me, hey, don't lay favorites in game in the NBA at any point. But Indiana plays Miami tonight. Of course, the Pacers play Boston next week on Monday in the quarterfinal, the East semifinal of the in-season tournament. In-season tournament, by the way, semifinals here next week, a week from today. That East final officially scheduled for 2:00 Pacific time next Thursday, and then the West final of the in-season tournament scheduled for 6 at T-Mobile Arena that Thursday. Boy, I'm sure the league is hoping for the Lakers to get to the final against either Milwaukee or Boston. And boy, what a draw. Heck, even the Knicks. Sorry, Pacers fans out there. But pretty good draw across the board, any way you slice it, for the teams that are going to be here potentially in Las Vegas for the in-season tournament.
Any college basketball for you today, or anything you want to talk about? I jumped in last night, got to watch a few college basketball games, including the North Carolina, some of the Duke game.
So I had FAU in a money line parlay with Illinois Chicago. FAU's up 16 on Liberty right now. Probably should have just laid the lumber at 7.5 with that. I don't mind UNC Wilmington, who just moved back to a favorite. That line's been moving all day. That flipped favorite twice now. Now that Wilmington's 1.5 point favorite, I'd probably stay out of that. At pick last night, I thought Wilmington was good. Missed the best of it. Not going to bother there. The rest of the night, there's not much else late night. Didn't mind Texas Tech. Didn't play it. Wanted to hold 3. Never got there. But we'll see how this all plays out. Again, the big one tomorrow, and I know this will make an appearance tomorrow on Football Friday, even though it's a basketball game. Kansas hosts Connecticut tomorrow night, which is a humongous early season game in college hoops at the Fog. UConn, I know some books have some numbers out. I saw Kansas -2. If that makes its way here to Nevada, that is going to be a lay at 2 on Kansas, coming off of a game where they were a 39-point favorite against Eastern Illinois 2 nights ago and only won by 8, and we're only up 3 with 2 minutes to go in that one against the Panthers of Eastern Illinois. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Chris Andrews just walked into the studio. We're going to talk to Chris, hypothetical lines and more, with the sportsbook director here at the South Point. Chris Andrews joins us next to wrap up the show on Sports by the Book.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in. Final segment for us, Sports by the Book, here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is here, as always, to my right. And now further to my right, I missed the memo. I guess I should have worn black today.
Oh yeah, you didn't see that?
Yeah,
I thought I sent it out to the crew.
I'm just in my gray jacket instead. Our guy Chris.
So tomorrow you have to wear a tuxedo. So that's.
Can I wear the tuxedo shirt or can I wear the Jimmy Vaccaro tuxedo of a white hoodie?
The real tuxedo.
Oh, now I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble.
The rental's open till late tonight, Jeff.
It may be a Canadian tuxedo, Chris.
Oh man, no.
All the denim I can find.
Yeah.
But Chris, well, let's go right to it. Our good friend Chris Felica asked you put out hypothetical lines.
Yeah.
They've been seen not only by friends and family, but people around the world on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
And so Alex and I talked about it earlier in the show. The one interesting thing, and this was the one that Twitter caught the most.
Yeah.
Just how high you are on the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah.
Where you have Georgia's a 1-point favorite on a neutral against the Ducks. And I think the one that caught everyone's attention was Oregon being a 2-point favorite on a neutral against Michigan, which, look, Oregon beats Washington this weekend. Michigan handles their business against Iowa. Georgia beats Alabama. Guess what? We're getting Oregon and Michigan in the Rose Bowl.
Man, yeah. I got to tell you. Let's go all the way back to August when Vinny and I started doing games of the year and season win totals, conference season win totals. We both said the same thing. Man, this Pac-12 is really, really good. And I think, they had the one game that was a toss-up that they lost. Otherwise, I think they're very impressive. And some people were saying, well, I'll put them up against an SEC team. I got to tell you, they're kind of built like an SEC team. They beefed up their lines. They're going to talk to you about what Georgia beat them by like 58 or something last year, or whatever it was. This is a different team. Every year is different. And I've been high on Oregon all through this year. I actually liked Washington against Oregon that day, just the way things were going. And I think Washington's very good too. But I think Oregon is really, really good. And by the way, while you guys were on the air, I don't know if you saw it, but we went back to 10 on that game. They laid it to us. So a lot of the wise guys are on it too. And part of, making numbers, and I'm not trying to pick winners. I'm just trying to find good numbers, is like judging the market. Now, sometimes at this point in time, it's a little hard to tell because teams have been playing in conference all year. So it's a little hard. But I still have my methodology, and I know a lot of people disagree with it. And you know what, Jeff? That's what makes gambling. I'm going to open whatever I want to open. But, of course, it might change by the time we open on Sunday morning or whenever we're going to open. Some injuries, some how they look, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, recency in college means a lot. Not much in the pros, but it means a lot in college.
And, again, you just mentioned it, and we mentioned it as well. Friday, tomorrow, for Pac-12. All those games on Saturday, they're just more data points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, the other thing that's funny with this is obviously put some lines up involving Washington.
Yeah.
What happens if the Huskies come out tomorrow night and pull the upset and just stand pat at number 3 in the college football rankings? Yeah, I can't say that's out of the question.
No,
either.
I keep saying, did you ever watch football on a college Saturday? 10-point dogs win all the time. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. So, I mean, would it stun anybody if Washington won? No. I mean, it'd be a mild surprise, but it's not like they're a $25 dog. They're like plus like what, $3.50 or
no, it's
something.
Not. It's not like we're asking Stanford to come to Allegiant Stadium and beat Oregon this year. I mean,
Washington's a good team, very well coached. They have a lot of talent, good quarterback, all that. yeah, I mean, they could easily win that game easily.
I do
You're going to be
wanna-
there, too.
I will be there.
I do want to ask you about that, Chris. So right now, Oregon's about 10 points better in your power ratings because
Mhm.
that's how we got to this line. If they do upset Oregon, how far
Oh,
up
man.
do you have to adjust Washington there?
Yeah, probably like 2 points. I don't
Okay,
know.
not-
Probably not much more than that, but depends. I mean, did they win
Right.
24-21 or did they win 56-0? I mean, so again, data points that we have to take a look at and see how we're looking. Listen, if they beat Oregon, they're going to move up in my power ratings.
yeah.
But we are in week whatever the hell
It's
it
week
is.
14.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
Yeah.
go too crazy
Right.
of an adjustment, but you have to do something.
I want to ask about Florida State because
Yeah.
they're the polarizing team now because of the Jordan
Yeah.
Travis injury. And Rodemaker left that game with a concussion at the end of it.
Yeah.
You had the 15 them getting 15 against Georgia, 12 against Michigan, 7 against Texas. They seem like of all the teams that play this weekend, like if they come out and they did remember when Cardell Jones came in for Ohio State almost a decade ago
Mm-hmm.
and they smashed Wisconsin.
Almost a decade ago.
Yeah, well, it was a decade ago
Oh,
now.
my God.
They smashed, I believe it was Wisconsin in that Big Ten
52
championship.
nothing or
It was
something.
something wild like that.
Yeah.
And then they won the college football championship with their third string quarterback. I'm just wondering if Florida State comes out and with whoever's at quarterback this week, depending on the injury to Rodemaker, they come out, smash Louisville. How do you move them, especially where it's like, all right, we got about Louisville's about the 20th best team in the country right now.
Yeah,
It's a little bit difficult.
Got beat up pretty bad last week to a
mediocre
good,
Kentucky team.
a good Kentucky team. Let's not go overboard. Another friend of ours who's been on the old show, Stanford Steve.
Of course.
He texted me last night too. We were talking about, maybe 2 nights ago. We were talking about what do you do with Florida State? I was like, Steve, there's more volatility in that number than anybody else on the board right now. Because when I opened it, and I forget do you have the opener there? What did I open? Like
So
5, I think?
So right now it's down to 1.5.
Yeah, but I
and you
opened 5.
You opened 5, right, Alex?
Yeah, I opened
Yeah.
4. Yeah, I'm down to 1.5 with business.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought with Rodemaker, I thought he looked pretty good. Just anybody recruited by Florida State's going to be pretty good. But of course you had the concussion. But Louisville, I don't know what happened last week, but I had to definitely lower them a little bit. But I told Steve, I says this thing can go a million different directions, depending on how they look. Listen, if they get blasted, they'll still be in one of the New Year's Day bowl games. But how much do you lower them? Because the quarterback, and me, I'm terrible with the names. What was the name of the original starting quarterback?
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. He was a terrific player and like really the player for Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
And without him, I mean, I don't know. But listen, over the years, I know that and there are certainly exceptions, but a certain level of player is at certain schools.
Right.
Like if Miami, Ohio loses a quarterback, you kind of know, I mean, except for Ben Roethlisberger, but you kind of know what the backup's going to be. You know what I mean? And if Georgia loses a quarterback or Alabama, we kind of know how good that he's going to probably be a 4 or 5 star recruit. Miami, Ohio, who going to be a 2, maybe a 3-star recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about the level you're going to get.
Right.
So I like Rodemaker, what I've seen. I mean, we'll see if he's healthy and see how he plays in a big game like this. But it was a pretty big game last week, and he looked okay.
They did all right. I thought that result more had to do with Florida.
Yeah.
More so.
No, I wouldn't dispute that. But I mean, he did his job.
I will ask you this real quick. We were talking about this game earlier, the American Championship, where SMU and Tulane, very possible the winner of that game is going to the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
Tulane wins, they're definitely going. This has been an interesting one because SMU's quarterback's out with the fibula injury.
Yeah.
And Alex brought up the backup, and his numbers are good in the limited action this year. I'm a little shocked that the bettors have taken this game the way they have, where Stone's not going to play, and they still are taking it with SMU down to 3.5.
I'm not surprised, and I tried to stay under the market when it opened. I think I opened lower than anybody. I've tried to stay.
Open 3.5.
And what did is that what I opened it?
You opened to 3.5 and then moved it to 6 pretty quickly.
Right, because the money came in quickly. I did move it. I think at that point we weren't sure about Stone.
We didn't know how bad the injury was. Yeah.
But then after that, I've been reading a lot I try to get as much information I can. The SMU people love this kid. They love him. And, I think SMU, that's another one. Vinny pointed them out maybe a month or so ago. Says, look out for this SMU team. They are really good. So I really tried to stay under the market with that, but I'm not surprised because the word out of SMU is that this kid is very, very good. And meanwhile, they're going to kick off, and I'm probably going to need Tulane in that one. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, you're okay with that,
look,
right?
I hope we somehow get to 3 because I'll lay 3.
Well, stick around.
No, if it gets there, I'd be very happy for that. That's also, again, a little later in the day. It's going at the same time as the SEC championship game, so that might be forgotten by a few people as that goes. Speaking of the SEC championship, this has been a pretty volatile betting game. With Georgia and Alabama, you're currently sitting at 5.5 where you opened. You moved the 6. They took the 6 with the Tide. In the market here, I mean, there's as low as 4.5.
Right.
I mean, this has been a very volatile game in the way it's been bet.
My numbers came to 6, so I see it dropping, and guys, they'll ask me about it. I said, well, when they bet me, I'll move it. I mean, what could I tell you? I don't feel like moving on air. I think the number's okay. I think Georgia is that much better than Alabama, but of course, we talk about 10-point dogs winning every week. 5-point dogs win every week too. So, I'm not saying I think the number's okay, and when they bet me, I'll move it. But right now, I'm whatever decision they give me on that, I'm okay.
What about the Mountain West? You two want to talk on this a little bit because I'm gonna stay out of this one.
I kind of like UNLV.
I'm with you.
And listen, I spent close to 30 years in Reno. I am not a UNLV fan, my dear. I'm sorry about that. As a matter of fact, there's a couple schools. My wife, she likes to buy me some golf shirts. Don't get me UNLV. I'm still Nevada.
Hey, Wolfpack and Rebels, I know. It's
I clash with our friend Steve Stallworth upstairs, But I like UNLV in the game. I really thought the game should be like Pick'em. I mean, you're not getting a whole lot, but I think a money line play on the dog probably give you a little bit of value.
Yeah, I'm with Chris. I think UNLV is the better football team. I know last week.
Yeah.
You know what? I think actually what happened last week may help them this week, where the spotlight was pretty bright for them last week, chancing an outright conference regular season championship at home. Played poorly for 3 quarters, just started to come back a little too late in that game. And we've talked about Boise State. This is not a good Boise State team, and here they are. They fired the coach 3 weeks ago, and here they are in the Mountain West title game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you're the coach, what are you sitting at home thinking? You're winning with my players? I mean, geez. I'm looking at my notes here. I actually made UNLV a 1-point favorite, so pretty close to pick them. But if you play the dog on the money line, I think you got some value.
See, and I thought it was about to pick them, but I didn't give UNLV any home advantage in that because
tickets still available.
Yes, as Ryan mentioned last week. But as what you said, I think last week is probably good for them. And I hope way more Vegas people actually show up for this one on Saturday.
Well, Boise's staying here. Do you know that?
Are
They're
they?
staying here?
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll overfeed them a little bit at the buffet or something like that.
Chris, before we go for today, the football game tonight, the NFL game tonight, they're laying it with the Cowboys, which is not much of a shock.
No.
We're not. Are we going to get to 10 on this? Are we going to touch 10 here?
How much time do we got?
We got about an hour and 25 minutes.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I know you kind of like the favorite. I don't really like the dog, but I thought like 9 was a good number.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit above that. We might get to 10. I don't know. I mean, I always hate Mr. Gone will call me 15 minutes before post. And then we get switched around in the last 15 minutes. Oh, I thought we needed, I know, who did Cincinnati play that one day? I think Buffalo. Thought we needed Cincinnati. Well, we did at 5 o'clock, but at 5:20, we needed the other side.
Yeah, this is one of those where we've talked about Seattle on this show. Their schedule is really difficult.
Yeah.
And for win totals before the season, for miss playoffs, they got to find a way to get one of these next 3 games, or else they're going to be fighting an uphill battle the rest of the season, even though their last 3 are all winnable games.
Yeah, I think they're a good team. I don't know how good. They're not anything really special, but they're a solid team. And I don't know if you listen to Frank's show. The one guy hates Pete Carroll. but he is a pretty good coach. I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
So.
He does a lot of things that drive me nuts, but you can't argue with the results, especially these last 2 years. I remember last year going into the year, we thought they're going to be the worst team in the NFL.
Worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, and
worst
they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Last year.
So he is a good coach.
Yeah. I can't argue with the results.
Yeah, the guy didn't like the way he chewed gum and threw it just anyway.
Oh, well, I thought that was hysterical last week when they caught that on camera.
Do you know how many touchdowns Garrett Wilson has this year?
Garrett Wilson has two.
Two?
Right? Or three. Excuse me, three.
Now.
He's the 1 week one, the 1 week two, and then that one last week, which shouldn't have even counted because the game was already over.
Do you know how many touchdowns DK Metcalf has?
Okay, I should know this because I have DK in fantasy, but I'm going to say he has. I'm going to say he has two. Right?
He has three. As well.
Okay.
So how does he have the same amount of touchdowns with Geno Smith as Garrett Wilson does, who hasn't really had a quarterback all season long? So that kind of sums up how the Seahawks have been playing.
Well, what three touchdowns for Garrett Wilson is 30% of the Jets' touchdowns.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot. It's funny how fantasy works. So, I mean, I've quit fantasy, and back when I played, like 80s, 90s, and all that, Dave Craig was a great fantasy quarterback. John Elway was a terrible fantasy quarterback. So, go figure.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles was a fantasy Hall of Famer the 1 year when Jacksonville kept getting down 20 points in the second half, and they had to throw the whole third and fourth quarter.
It's just that's why I quit playing. I can't take the aggravation.
I've threatened for multiple years to hang it up with fantasy. After this year, I have to sign the letter. I'm retiring from fantasy football. I'm done.
Oh, he's doing it.
It's not fun. It's not fun anymore.
No, I couldn't take the aggravation. It wasn't enjoyable.
Sports betting, even though there's plenty of aggravation, is a lot more interesting and more fun to me than fantasy football. So, all right, Chris, always a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Football Friday.
See you tomorrow.
Football Friday, 2 to 4 tomorrow. Not a lot of college games, but as you said, they're important. They're big ones. College football, whole NFL slate, and also, I'm just preparing you for this. There's one gigantic college basketball game tomorrow night that we will definitely talk about.
Kansas, UConn?
That is right.
Yeah.
We will be talking about that one at least for a little bit.
That's a big one.
Tomorrow at Fog Allen to kick off the month of December. How about that? We're in December tomorrow.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's the years go by as like a percentage of your age.
Yeah.
I'm 67. It goes by really quick. You're 30?
Yeah.
A little slower for you. Wait till you're my age.
Yeah, it's don't worry. I'll blink and I'll be there, right?
I'll be gone by then, but sure.
I didn't want to say it, Chris. Chris, thank you as always. Alex White, thank you as always. Crew, Jerry, Ryan, Sean, great work as always, and as well, who's congratulating our old mutual friend Des and Ken, who had their first child a few days ago. Last night, thank you, Ryan. Kid is named Ken also, correct? Yeah, so a second Ken into the world. So congratulations to Des and Ken on that. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm Jeff Parles. This has been Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio.